Hello everybody, welcome back. Today we're talking about sticking to your schedule, which can be really tough for those of us with ADHD and also might suddenly be very necessary if you are working from home and needing to structure your own time. So I think a lot of the reason that it's often so difficult for us to set a schedule is number one, we tend to be time blind, so we're not sure how long things will take. We also struggle to prioritize often. We get a lot overwhelmed with the number of things that we could do, not sure which one is really necessary, what should come first. And we tend to not evaluate. So even if we were to just choose something, we're often not deciding whether or not those choices were good, not being clear on how to decide that. So just making the schedule in the first place can be really tough for us. But then we often don't follow through. So we might have a really beautiful planner that we outlined in detail, and then we don't actually complete the tasks on it. So it can feel like an exercise in futility to even do it. Why would I do it if I'm not going to follow through, right? We want to reverse basically all of those things. So I'm going to talk about that today. So the ways to start sticking to your schedule is first to make a bad one. Stop trying to make the perfect schedule. Make a bad schedule. We're going to start from that and improve it very gradually over time until you have a schedule, not only a schedule that works well, but a planning method that works well for you. Number two, just guess how long the tasks will take. At the beginning, you just got to guess. And then you have to evaluate, and we'll talk about that too. Guess how long it will take? I like to put my tasks in half-hour chunks just because that's a good amount of time for me to focus on something, especially if I dislike it. If I really dislike it, I might make it 15 minutes and just see how much I can get done. Do notice that if it's a task that you dislike, we tend to overestimate how long they will take. A lot of the times we overestimate because we tend to start and stop these tasks and they end up taking a week, right? Like you do dishes all day long because you don't ever actually just get it done. But you can also, for tasks that you don't have a strong emotion tied to them, give yourself a little extra time because we tend to underestimate those tasks. But just guess. Start somewhere. It doesn't matter. Give yourself transition time. 5-10 minutes to move from one task to the next. There's often setting up that needs to be done. There's often just getting yourself to the place where you feel good about leaving what you're doing. And then give yourself catch-up time. You don't have to make this a huge detailed schedule. Just start with something and give yourself time to catch up on things that you left unfinished, because you need to leave them unfinished. Is very, very important. And then overdo, this is my number 5, overdo the alarms and the cues that you need to make sure you are looking at the schedule to see what's next. You need to have start and end alarms for yourself or some way to get yourself to know that you're done. Because a lot of us, we will just decide to do things until we are finished. There's a very large problem with that. You need to stop doing that, says the expert, right? Then I put stars by these. It's very important to follow through on the limits you gave yourself at all costs, and any changes you want to make them to tomorrow's schedule, not to today's. Okay? So I'm going to talk about some of the problems that we will have with any schedule that we set. A lot of times we get to this place where I'm not quite done. Either I didn't give myself enough time, or there's another problem occurring, and we get to this point where we're not quite done and we want to finish. We're almost done. I'm just going to push a little into the next thing. I want you guys to stop doing that, right? If you have reached the point where you're not finished with the task, it needs to stop, and you need to evaluate at the end of the day why you did not finish in the time you allotted. There are multiple reasons. One of them will be that you got distracted. One of them will be that you were having negative thoughts during the task, which were slowing you down because of the emotions, the resistance that you were creating. One of them will be that you actually just didn't give yourself enough time, and you need to adjust that in the future. But what you want to do is stick to what you said you would do. The reason that's so important is that if you stick to it and you basically fail miserably today, you set up a pattern in your mind of knowing that you will do what you planned. So then you get to evaluate and decide to adjust for tomorrow. You'll know that tomorrow you'll do what you planned, right? You'll stick to those times. So you can adjust when something was done poorly one day, you can adjust it the next. So a problem is you're not quite done. You need to stop. Stop when you're not quite done. That's going to make you feel uncomfortable, most likely, or relieved, depending. But stop at the time limit. So you were going to stop at 1, you stop at 1, you move on to the next task. One of the problems is we get distracted. For that, you need to employ strategies. Add stimulation, music, a phone call, a podcast. Another strategy would be to set off a beeper, an alarm every 5 minutes to pull you back and to pull you back and to pull you back. Another strategy is to keep a notebook with you. So anytime you think, ooh, and I need to do that, like you start organizing the closet and then you think, oh, but I need to put pictures in this thing. We go down we end up all over the house when we start doing one chore. Write down anything that you think of to do for later, right? This is my time to do the dishes. So anything I think of while I'm doing the dishes goes on the paper. Those are some good strategies to employ for distraction. Another problem is we feel awful, right? Like I feel so pressured sticking to this routine. I feel like I'm dying. I feel so resistant to doing this task. What that requires is thought work. Those emotions are not coming from the task and they are not coming from your ADHD. They're coming from the thoughts that you're thinking while you're doing the task. We need to change those. Okay, as soon as your thoughts about this task change, oh, this is so boring. Okay, that makes you feel horrible every time. And it does not have to be true. Like most of the time our thoughts are completely optional. They could be true, they could be false. It depends on what you believe. So what I do with my coaching is teach you how to believe new things so that you feel at worst neutral. Like you feel kind of like a not much of anything while you're completing a task. At best, you feel great about it. One of the things that I often think during a task that is easy for me to feel bad about is that this is a great way to glorify God in doing a daily task that keeps my body in shape, nutrition, things that I do for my family that are monotonous. It's for God. That is actually how to live a God-glorifying, very purposeful life, is to do some of these things and to feel good about them. So we need to work on those feelings because a lot of us feel bad and then immediately react by distracting ourselves and quitting what we're blaming for making us feel bad. But it's not the task, okay? You don't have to quit boring tasks because they're boring. There's no boring in it. It's all coming from our brains, and you have the power to change that. And then lastly, we might run into this problem of realizing we don't like the way we spent our day. The important thing is that you spend it the way you planned, and then you get to decide, tomorrow I want more time with my kids. Tomorrow I want to give myself space for exercise. I also recommend planning a whole week because then you can realize that you don't have to do every single thing every single day. We just don't have time for it. You end up deciding, I don't have to exercise every day. I'm going to exercise 3 times a week. These are my days, right? Or this day I'm going to work a lot. The next day I'm going to spend a lot of time with my kids. And it kind of evens out. You get to see your priorities better on a weekly basis. I mean, the longer term goals that you have, you get to see how balance can mean high work during this quarter and low work during that quarter. The broader you can see that perspective, the more far-reaching your planning gets, the better you can balance those priorities. It's hard on a day-to-day basis, but day-to-day is still where I would start, and then adjust tomorrow. So get into this habit of thinking, I never alter what I planned day of unless it's an emergency. Otherwise, I'm going to change tomorrow. This really helps with people who are struggling to eat healthy as well. When you plan your meal and you really want the brownie, I can have it tomorrow. I can plan for it tomorrow. I'm not going to do it when I did not plan to eat the brownie today. Okay, so let me know if you have questions about this because this gets more detailed depending on the individual, but this should give you a start and some thoughts to be thinking about as you attempt to schedule your time. So much fun. Basically what this gives you is control over your life, right? You get to decide what you're going to do and then know that you're going to do it. And it's a hugely powerful thing, and you can plan a lot of fun into your life that way. So I hope this helps, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.